Paul Jenkins' lead continues to dwindle. With Guerin having claimed victory number 2 at Iowa, it appears he has momentum on his side. However, today's race will provide a completely different test compared to last week. Motegi's road course is a lesser used circuit on iRacing. Though skill will come in handy, nothing will replace the practice needed to master this track. We'll see who's put the time in as we get ready to watch Round 7 of Ultimate Conquest Online Racing's Throwback Indycar Series, presented by 9-4 Motorsports. You'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Rocco Stallone. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. In case we have viewers unfamiliar with Motegi's GP circuit, we've got a handy guide ready to introduce you. Welcome to Twin Ring Motegi. This well-known Japanese racing facility located roughly 2 hours north of Tokyo gets its name from the fact that it has both an oval and a road course that can be run. But a unique feature of this track is that instead of having a roval layout, the road course is entirely separate from the oval circuit. On top of that, drivers have 3 different road courses to choose from in the form of the Grand Prix, East, and West circuits. While not totally devoid of elevation change, the track is relatively flat. What distinguishes the place the most is the combination of plenty of long straights heading into heavy braking zones. This means that passing opportunities abound. With it being built in 1996, it has most of the qualities you'd expect from a modern road course, including flat curbs, a fair amount of runoff, and multiple pit complexes. Oddly, because of the oval, the track includes night lighting for a portion of the road circuit. Though there isn't much notable about most of the turns, one of the more distinctive corners is the final chicane on the Grand Prix course. Leading out of a tunnel that returns you to the oval infield, it's kinked on entry and it tightens greatly at the second apex. This makes pushing the limits of this corner extremely tough, and it often catches drivers out. Though international series such as IndyCar and Motegi GP have held rounds at the track, today it is mainly used for local open wheel and GT series. Still, the one-of-a-kind experience offered to drivers and fans at this circuit is sure to keep people coming back for years to come. You see some views around this place. Thankfully, without headlights on the cars, they are racing during the day today, Rocco. But like I was saying, not a lot of drivers actually put the cars down on this track. So why don't you run over the details of what the Grand Prix course layout is like?
Of course, Joe. We got 14 turns, almost 3 miles just underneath. And you're right. It's just a track that nobody really seems to race on. You don't see it pop up in a lot of the seasons, and it's not something that you really think about. You think about watching races, you think of Twin Wing Motegi, you think of the oval. So that's just one of those things where unfamiliarity can bring some fun racing to watch. It should be good. These guys are used to oval tracks. This is the first time they've been on a road course, I believe, this season, maybe the second, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be interesting to see how they negotiate a new set of challenges that a road course would bring. So, Joe, that's what we're here to do. We're here to watch these guys handle something new tonight.
Absolutely. Last one was at Circuit of the Americas, and that was a fascinating race. But why don't we take a look at the championship standings first, starting with the driver's standings here. And I mentioned Paul Jenkins and Dan Guerin only 4 points apart now. Brian Beard's still there or thereabouts, about 51 points back, but just can't seem to get things together. He stays in third. Robert Bluen distance behind, and then John Garrett, actually not 11 points back from the leader. Double check to see what the points is there for. It looks like 110 points back from the leader for him. So he and Robert Bluen are quite tight on that. Now, of course, we might have viewers who've never seen this series before. So why don't you run down the race details here, Rocco?
Yeah, sure. It's round 7 of 20. These have been some fun races. We're running the Throwback Dallara IR05 IndyCar from a little bit ways away back in time. Going to do 50 laps. You get one fast repair. That could come in handy. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of offs today, maybe a little bit of contact. So I'm sure these guys will be using that. And it's a custom fixed setup, which means everybody's running the same setup, but that has actually been dictated by the powers that be. So it should be a fun one today, Joe.
Absolutely. As we are watching qualifying currently, and there's only 3 minutes left in this qualifying with Brandon Schoen on the provisional pole. Dan Guerin is chasing him. They only get 4 laps here in qualifying, and Guerin is on his last one. Shown with his victory last week. Looks like he is continuing that momentum. There's Guerin heading down towards turn 5, one of the many places that you can attempt passes around here. Beard's not looking too bad either, honestly, Rocco. I see him sitting in third.
Yeah, we see. Hopefully, we're going to see a couple new guys be up toward the top tonight. Again, with the change from the oval to the road racing. Schoen, Garrett, we've seen up top before, and Beard. Chris Matricia, excuse me, he's up in fourth real quick, and John Garrett, and then Tyler Graff in sixth, and Kita in seventh. Takashi Kita, he had a strong run last race out, kind of faded toward the end, but he was up there for a while. And just new guys. Jackson Freer, a name we don't say much on these broadcasts, but good to see new blood up there with the qualifying.
Guerra with a 38 on his one of his laps. Looks like Jason Galvin having some trouble here on the road side of things. He tends to be a little bit more known for his oval prowess. Guerin is actually coming to the line now for that final attempt at taking the pole away. He's got to make up 6/10. And is it going to be enough? No. His first lap was his quickest, so that is it between those two. Beard is only going to get this one more lap. He doesn't have enough time to do his fourth and final one. Number 5 has 7/10 to make up to Brandon Schoen. That's Eric Jeffers you see coming across the line. And Bennett as well. Bennett's going to be followed by Brian Beard pretty quickly. Let's get those cameras on Beard. Oh, and his lap doesn't count. So that is going to be it for Brian Beard. Third place is the best he will do. 50 seconds left. Looks like Eliota coming across the line to complete his qualifying. Trying to spot who else is able to finish. Webker as well. Looks like he's going to only get 2 timed laps in. 97, looking to improve on a 34.7. He does by about half a second. That actually puts him up to 7th. That's a nice little leap.
That was a nice little lap by him. Something you could see that we don't normally see on the ovals. You just see those brake rotors glowing. It's just so cool to see that orange inside that rim.
Absolutely. And no lap for Figuera, as both of his did not count. Looks like Galvin's going to be our last one. So can he improve on this 13th place? Yes, he can. That's up to 11th. All right, that is going to take us to our grid where we have our top qualifier decided. The top qualifier championship is Brought to you by D2 Race Designs, a special in creating personalized and customized sim racing peripherals, as well as providing the RC racing community items that make their days at the track more organized and efficient. The season's top qualifier will win a customized button box, all thanks to the kind folks at D2 Race Designs. And that is Brandon Schoen once again getting max points there. Dan Guerin is going to be following in second place. Row 2 has Brian Beard to the inside with Christopher Matrizion in fourth and John Garrett in P5. Jackson Freer, sixth for him today, will be followed by Jeff Webker in seventh, and then Paul Jenkins, championship leader, all the way down in eighth. Tyler Graff starts ninth, and Takeshi Kita, not too shabby, with the top 10.
Thanks, Joe. And yeah, a lot of these guys with some solid runs finding themselves in the top positions. We got Jason Galvin in 11th alongside Andrew Peel, who's in 12th. Row 7, we see Isaiah Dupree and Eric Jeffers in 14th spot. Nate Burke, Travis Bennett, 15th and 16th respectively. Richard Swavely in 17th alongside Brian Peel in 18th place. And rounding out the top 20 in row 10, we have Eric Hodel in 19th and Brian Greenlee in 20th spot.
Jonathan Aliota starts 21st, and the last driver to put a time in is Scott Rupp in 22nd. Galaz, Vargas, Guerra, and Blumen will start from the back of the grid. And I do see everybody out here, so we should have all of our 26 drivers start the race. Now we have two of our highlighted drivers once again. That'll be Brandon Schoen is one of those, and Brandon is driving in the number 98 machine. And then, of course, our other one is Paul Crumry, our second driver, who doesn't appear to be here today. Highlight drivers are brought to you by Midwest Simulations. You watch the track, we'll watch the rest. Use the promo code THROWBACK for $5 off a set of their spotlights, visual spotting systems, and find out more at MidwestSim.com. Pace car getting ready to peel in and hand things over to Brandon Schoen now. Pole sitter, what kind of start is he going to give them for that onboard? Around the slow final chicane on cold tires here. He's waiting a long time. Now he accelerates away. Green flag is out here for round 7. And it is a bad start for second place because Guerin already has Beard looking to the inside down into turn 1. He's not deep enough on the brakes. Oh, but he might be because way wide Guerin somehow collects it. We got a car off track behind them. That's Swavely, who unfortunately spun as the leaders now come to turn 3. A little bit of an attack on Beard from Matrizion. He's not able to make that work. Most of them getting single file here through the back and forth section.
Yeah, Joe, and not actually a relatively clean start. We had one go off track, but considering these guys have been on ovals the last 2 races, I was really impressed by that. They kept it clean, and everybody got away pretty quickly.
Brian Beard still with the closest battle up at the front as we see the leaders now head through the S's of 7 and 8. So far, it's looking good for Schoen as he is really displaying how you drive a road course here. Guerin just dropping off on this first lap, and Beard gets a good exit out of turn 9. That's going to keep Matrizion at bay. Freer now catching up to the back of him from 5th.
Yeah, Joe, we see first place pretty much right now is pretty decided. He's comfortable up there, and Dan Guerin in second spot. A little bit of a gap too, and that's where everything wads up. You got 3rd place, 4th place, all the way back. If you keep looking, it's all the way almost to 11th, 12th spot. These guys are within 1 turn with one another, and it's a good, tight, clean start. And a lot of time to go though. We can't forget there's 50 laps in this race,
and 2 pit stops. Don't forget. So there's plenty to happen as this thing goes on. A little bit of a blink from Brian Beard, unfortunately. Seems his internet connection not too great right now. As they come down to 3 once again, Matrizion still under threat, but Freer doesn't look like he's going to be able to attack. Had an off track behind them, Aliota. Same thing, first corner, unfortunately, finding himself turned the wrong way and off course.
Yeah, Joe, and something interesting. We have someone's spinning now. That's Isaiah Dupree on the track. And I was actually just going to say something about him. He had been given an end of the line penalty. Don't know what happened.
Ooh, and Matrizion with an accident down into turn 5. We're looking at the replay. He just got into the back of Freer, and his car came to a halt. There wasn't massive damage on it. Not sure why he decided to take a tow, because he could have continued on. So that is going to be a big setback for him, and way too early for a scheduled stop right now.
My apologies, Joe. I was calling a completely different spin that happened at the exact same time.
Well, I had missed it too until we had gone to replay. So obviously we were both kind of distracted, and that had snuck by. Meanwhile, Freer is not done with things. He's now looking on Garrett to see if he can get into 5th place. Well, this should be 4th place. We're waiting for timing and scoring to catch up because of Matrizion taking that tow onto the front stretch. Garrett holding him back, and Freer, unless he's very brave, is not going to be able to make a move here.
Yeah, a lot of interesting running around, and you see Freer's got that bent-in rear wing. Not looking too good. Maybe fast repairs soon, but he's holding on to it. And, some tough racing for these guys already.
They do have one spare car waiting for them. They get damaged like that, and it is bad enough. I feel like maybe he could just take the repairs instead of the free car. It depends on if he wants to spend it early. Oh, was deep into the corner behind them. That was Graf that you saw back in 6th place. It maybe had a little bit of a scare coming down into the braking zone.
I'm going to check out an onboard here, Joe. We're going to take a view from Tyler Graf's car, watching that little moment that happened here. Ooh, getting a little wide, almost getting it off track. And one thing I noticed when I was driving this track, you get off a little bit of the line and you give it too much, that back end's going to want to jump around on you.
Don't need to get a replay, but Jason Galvin unfortunately lost the car and spun it under the bridge heading onto the outfield section, and Travis Bennett now is off track as well. That's a little bit farther in the pack. We didn't see it on screen. Whoa, a lot of accidents around Bennett right now. Aliota and Scott Rupp down in 23rd and 24th. Track looks very slippery for the back of the field, apparently.
Yeah, some of the guys in the back right now having a little bit of trouble getting a hold of this. I think it might be coming down to what you said prior to green flag, Joe. Just a little bit of inexperience. Not a lot of guys doing a lot of laps on this Motegi Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, you saw the two of them spinning out all on their own. No contact from either of them.
Oh, somebody just got a piece of the 96, and it looked pretty vicious, to be completely honest. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, we're still on replay here, and the 96 is blew in. I think he started out spinning himself. Oh, well, he braked very early in a corner you usually don't brake for, and Isaiah Dupree was in the wrong place at the wrong time and just plowed into the back of him.
Yeah, it's a lot of tight racing early on, Joe. I tell you what, these guys really came out to run today.
We've got the replay on screen. Yeah, blew and slowing for that turn. It's just that's not a place where you're supposed to hit the brakes. So as we come back live, he has taken his spare car, and well, he's going to return in 24th. So we take a look at 4th place. John Garrett currently leads Jackson Freer. We saw this battle earlier. Tell you what, I don't think that wing damage is slowing down Freer at all.
I don't think so.
All over that gearbox.
Yeah, he's just. I mean, it doesn't seem to be affecting him one bit. He's right on the back of Garrett right now. Good little battle going on here for 5th and 4th spot.
See this sometimes in real life. The drivers get damaged, and suddenly the radio into the engineers. The car handles better now. So all that money spent on setting up the car kind of just gets thrown out the window, like the cones just did, as deep into the corner, John Garrett taking it way hot into 3, and that's going to compromise his exit. Freer goes around the outside, makes it look easy. So Jackson now up to P4. He's got a ways to go to the next cars, though. 3.5 seconds to get onto the podium with Beard ahead.
It was a very, very nice pass by Jackson Freer, but it looked like Garrett took a few turns to collect himself. He looks like he's back on it now, but that was a rough one. But a nice pass on the outside by the 25.
We're going to look from Graf's perspective. The 26 has now gained a lot of time because of them swapping positions. Despite the damage being on Freer's car, it almost looks like John Garrett is the one struggling with it. So he's falling back into the clutches of another driver within the same lap. He's better on the throttle, though, here coming onto the backstretch. That'll keep him safe down into 11.
Yeah, and if you just look at this backstretch, that grade down, you have so much load on the front brakes. You've really got to stand on them. Oh, and grab around in the wall. Oh, tough, tough, tough.
That's heavy damage on that one. We rode on board as it happened. You could see he's pretty stuck with the traffic going by. The car does not look good. So what could have been a top 5 has suddenly resulted in him now coming to pit lane. Looking at 12th place, Eric Jeffers and Brian Greenlee having a little bit of a tussle. And how about this? Lucio Vargas in there as well. So a 3-car train.
Yeah, these guys definitely trying to maneuver around one another, being semi-cautious. We're not that far into this race. We've seen a lot of guys go off. We've already seen a few guys hit the wall. A little bit of cautiousness, but nice tight racing early on in this race here.
Backing out of turn 4 towards 5. Sharp right-hander, pretty much just a hairpin. And despite Greenlee losing track in the first half of this lap, suddenly he's coming back at Eric Jeffers now. And I thought Vargas was going to be the one attacking. Instead, the 38 right underneath the gearbox of that red and black machine.
Yeah, Joe, and can't forget about the guy out front. Just want to, so much going on behind him. The 98, Brandon Schoen, he's out to a 3.5-second lead over second place, Dan Guerin. And he's 5 seconds ahead of Brian Beard for third spot. Just wanted to give a quick update on our top 3.
Schoen going to try and make it 2 in a row here. There's those brake rotors glowing that you mentioned earlier. Smooth as silk right now for the number 98. Guerin's going to have his work cut out for him if he wants to take another victory.
Yeah, and like you said, Joe, he's just smooth. He looks smooth. Very little input in the car. Obviously familiar with the layout of the track. Showing the poise of a driver that's very comfortable on this particular layout.
So we now see what Garrett has. This is in 5th place, as he's just behind Jackson Freer. Once again, we keep seeing Freer with cars behind him instead of ahead of him. He's constantly on the rear guard today.
Yeah, just watching these turns, you could see the car ahead of him, how he's got to struggle. Maybe it's a little bit of that damage, but just these cars are they're built for ovals, obviously, and they're built for road courses. But you can see that these guys have to make a little bit of adjustment to their driving styles, as we would see with the tight oval racing.
Definitely a different discipline, but that's what we love about IndyCar, is it forces you to be versatile. They come under the bridge once more, down into the braking of the final chicane. That is very dusty offline. I don't know careful about how they tiptoe through there. Nothing doing down into turns 1 and 2 between them, so they're going to stay put in 4th and 5th. As we've only had 2 drivers be able to win more than one race. We've got 2 for Guerin right now and 2 for Stouffer. And there's 1 on the board for Schoen. Oh, and into each other they go. Freer and Guerin collect each other down into turn 5.
Oh, wow, we're going to take a look from Freer's point of view on this, Joe. I was not expecting that to happen.
It was Garrett who was behind him. And, oof, yeah, I think he just outbraked himself a little bit. They're both able to keep it going. It just seemed like he suddenly realized he was coming in hot and was trying to keep from running into him. And unfortunately, the turn eventually hit. This has slowed them back up into Webker and Kita. Takeshi Kita, remember, qualified 10th. Now up to 7th place. Oh, but Kita's a little bit wide there through turn 11.
Yeah, Joe, this battle between 4th, I'd say all the way through about, I'll give it 8th place. been close this whole race. Everybody else is kind of spaced out. Seeing a little bit of the top half of the top 20 spread out a little bit, but these guys up here, like I said, about the fourth through eighth, they've been keeping it entertaining. It's been fun watching these guys so far.
For the fuel stint this race, they can go 15 to 17 laps for the first window. So we've still got a little bit to go, but it is rapidly approaching that we should expect drivers to come in. Ooh, this is very close now. That's a great run from Kita. Shows his nose, but he is not going to attempt the pass. Webker will hold on to it.
Yeah, that looked like a very pedestrian attempt to try to pass. I think he was just letting him know he was there. I think he was just trying to test his limits a little bit. That didn't look very full-hearted on that attempt.
With all the action we've seen, we've only had one DNF so far. Matrizion has called it a day. Ooh, and off he goes. Kita, did he hit the wall there, or did he keep it out of it? I think he barely avoided the Armco.
I think the weight of these onboard cameras is messing with these guys a little bit.
We're going to watch it from the helicopter. Oh, it put his wheels off, I think. That's what it looked like from there.
But good on him. You know, he kept it off the wall, turned something that cost him a little bit of time, kept it from being a disaster. So, you know, tough break, but at least he made a good attempt to save it.
Let's not forget about our highlighted driver, as we don't have our second one here today, Brandon Schoen. Let's look at that Midwest Simulations onboard and see what it looks like from the leader right now. I imagine it's going to be a lot of beautiful, clear track as he comes off of the infield under the bridge. Into the S's now. Let's watch those hands. Yeah, there is no drama inside that cockpit right now. Everything just looks nice and calm.
Yeah, Joe, and something else I'm noticing just as we watch this onboard shot is shown here, just the elevation changes on this track. You wouldn't expect it just by looking at it, but you can see here as he climbs up the hill, goes up the old straight, and then right over the apex here and all the way down, hard on those front brakes, making sure that you hit that apex. Very difficult to get that load up, but great job and great shot. Oh, we have a problem, Joe?
Yeah, Nate Burke, unfortunately, has gone off, and this seems to be a trouble zone. Turn 9 is a slow corner, and it's usually coming off the turn, gassing the car up. There it goes around again.
There it was, trying to pop it from low gear and just watching that back end go around.
And unfortunately, even though we have had Tony Kanaan on the Global Sim Racing channel recently, that is not Tony Kanaan that we see. Now, it was Isaiah Dupree, I think, took a tow to pit lane, and he's out of his car currently because he was not up in the lead, and suddenly he jumped up the timing and scoring, so seems to have had yet more problems here today. Meanwhile, the battle for fourth still not going away, and it still has 3 cars involved now that we've lost Takeshi. Freer is followed by Garrett, who's followed by Wubker.
And as we've seen, Joe, still the place to be as far as battling on the track. It even looks like these guys have been a little bit content to spread themselves out a bit. A lot of time to go. As I say that, of course, a little bit of the gap closure there, but good, respectful racing. These guys just keeping the wheels on the tarmac and making sure that everything goes smooth. Oh, and as I say that, of course, someone goes around.
Freer again. Turn 9. Wow. Let's watch the onboard. It's not terribly hot out here. It's only 86 degrees Fahrenheit currently. So it's not that they're facing a slippery track. Goodness.
Well, you could see it when he went around. If you look at the steering wheel, he hit first gear and he just hit it too hard. It looked like he almost missed a shift out of the turn, honestly. It looked like the steering wheel displayed an N, but that was just me trying to be a little too observant. But it definitely seemed to lend itself to think one may have done that.
So up at the front, Garen's not giving up. He's set the fastest lap of the race. this last lap, 33.722 compared to the 33.8 of the quickest for Schoen. Small inroads, but sometimes you got to take those small victories.
Oh, we can't show anybody tonight.
Jeez. This is proving a much harder track than I expected. I mean, I know it can be difficult in its own way, but it seems that these slow corners are tripping up a lot of people.
Yeah, Joe, it's something I expected at the beginning of the race. I expected to see some offs, but we're seeing it throughout the field. We're seeing top runners. We're seeing low end guys. We're seeing everybody struggle with some of these turns, getting on the gas too much. Let's check out 11th spot.
Well, that's going to change hands right now because Galvin, on his climb through the field, came up to Hodel, and Eric decided he didn't really want to fight him too hard, so the sportscaster managed to find himself another position without too much tussle.
Yeah, and I just hope that, I'm getting scared every time we watch somebody. We watch him for half a lap and we see him spin. So, I don't want to say too much about anybody, but, hopefully we just get some static shots and see guys go in and out of the frame.
Let's go down to 16th because Andrew Peel now has Brian Greenlee looking to try and take a spot. This is getting awful close here. Greenlee, the chaser, who we ride on board with, the number 38, sticking his nose in. Oof. Peel is going to be able to stay ahead of him, but boy, that almost looked like he was going to touch the back of that car and send both of them around. Coming down into 11. Once again, brakes on that number 38 are mighty today.
Yes, they are, coming down that hill. And that's one of the interesting things about Motegi. Multiple passing zones throughout the entire track. And they're back-to-back. A lot of tracks, you got one shot and you have to regain yourself and work your back way half a lap. But no, not on a Motegi. You got back-to-back potential passing zones, and it makes it close like we were just watching there.
But still kind of tough to try and get by. Passing has mostly been down to these mistakes that we've been seeing. Ahead of these two, they've got Eric Jeffers not too far up the road. Interesting that Greenlee pulled out of the slipstream twice, and now he's going to look to the inside from a long ways back. You said earlier you didn't think something was a serious attempt. I hope that one wasn't a serious attempt.
I tell you what, then not looking to be passed on that turn, I will tell you that.
Greenlee was miles back and suddenly just dove it in. Falls back through the quicker sections. Clearly, if he gets a good enough run, he's going to be able to outbrake Peel. First thing he's got to do, though, is get that corner exit down.
Yeah, and this battle happening way back in the field. But that's where the exciting action is going on. 4th, 5th, 6th place separated by about 6 seconds, and then 7th and 8th by 1, and then we got a few gaps. But watching some of these battles materialize, it really doesn't matter if it's for 15th spot. It's fun to watch.
Our leader actually is coming up on a little bit of lap traffic now. Brandon Schoen is approaching Scott Rupp. Rupp was one of those, I don't believe, who put in a qualifying time. No, he did put in a qualifying time, excuse me. But he's down in 22nd now. I wonder, and honestly, this is where I start thinking strategy. Rocco, if Schoen looks at the lap counter and looks at the fuel, now that he's got traffic, should he come in?
I think it'd be a perfect time to come in. These lappers are going to slow him down at least a couple seconds now from what he's shown all night. Oh, and of course, somebody's in the camera and they hit the wall.
That was Rupp, the number 74.
Too bad.
Spinning it off. I think he was trying to pull out of the way even. I think he was trying to be polite and let the leader go. And then with the steering lock on, and again, a slow corner.
Wow, just jumped around.
Goes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's one out of the way for Schoen.
Yeah,
but he's got another that he just barely squeaked by now. That was Bluen that he almost got into the back of. Let's take a look from the leader's perspective.
Oh, it's a scary moment.
and twice.
Oof. A little aggressive. Little. I mean, I'm just glad they made it out of that in one piece, both of them.
Well, we said it before that now would be a good time to pit, and he didn't. I hope he's reconsidering that. Again, I know it's easy to say from up here, but it seems like an ideal time. Heading back down to the battle for 7th, Freer has been caught by Kita. Both of them have had spins, hence why they wound up back together.
Yeah, and not just the leader, but everybody right now could take the opportunity to pit and try to pass the guy that they're trying to get past, pass them in the pits. We're at lap 15. These guys are definitely within their pit window, so potentially a viable strategy. But I have a feeling once we see one, we'll see them all come.
Well, we've got a few of the back markers coming in. Bennett pits, Aliota, who had a spin, pits. Oh, Galaz is around, and guess which corner it is? It's the exit of turn 9 again. Let's keep the cameras here. It was a self-spin. I feel like, whoa, and that is Paul Jenkins giving up spots, our championship leader, with Guerin already many positions up ahead of him, is handing over crucial points.
Oh, wow. It's just who's going to spin next? My God. It's tough on these guys today, Joe.
Well, he locked it up well. He reacted quick enough so that he didn't hit the wall the way that we saw Rupp do.
Yeah, but
Rupp is back racing once again, by the way.
Rupp's was interesting, though, because it looked like he had come around the turn and then he lost it. But it looked like the one we just saw here. It looked like the speed was carried throughout the corner and he couldn't control it and it went around on him. So the same spot, but it looked like two different types of spins, Joe.
Meanwhile, the battle for 6th now instead of 7th because Freer and Takeshi gain positions. Ooh, Kita is close, but he's not aggressive enough to try it here. Down into 9. They're going to go by the lap traffic themselves. I can report that starting lap 17, Brandon Schoen is still continuing on, so he's going to take it until this thing goes empty.
Yeah, perhaps, pushing it a little bit. I know if
down to the inside on screen, Kita makes an attempt. He's half-heartedly in there. He's got the overlap, but Freer is going to fend him off.
Yeah, Drew, the chicane, we see a little bit of gap forming up, and here's a good spot to try to catch him at the end of this straight. Good attempt there. Nice, clean racing.
Come down into turn 1 once again, and Takeshi Kita gaining some time under braking, but losing it right back coming off of turn 2. Let's watch and see what he's doing from his perspective as we hop on the roll bar.
Nice to listen to that going down the straightaway, just letting it wrap out.
Using plenty of the track. Oh, and did Brian Greenlee wreck on his way into the pits? I think he did. Brian Greenlee, I even made a note about this pit entry, and I think poor Brian could have used that note. Woo! Doink. Just a tiny tap. And, well, that could have been a lot worse, I will admit.
Nah, Joe, you had mentioned that. That's this tricky little kink in pit lane. I mean, you're slowing down off of a high speed track, and you come in. It's just something mean to throw at these guys. We got some guys in the pits too.
Yeah, Beard is in. Guerin pits. Schoen kept going. Schoen getting good mileage out here today. Tires for both of them, it looks like. Should be quick ones. A little bit quicker for Guerin than it was Beard as they exit back out. Looks like Kita's gonna pit.
He's
like
keeping that rear spinning
of the day. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Keita was just, he had his
Ooh.
back wheels turning. We got a little bit of bumping going on.
Side by side off the exit of the pit lane, and Keita's going to win that and stays ahead of Jenkins. That was tight. Meanwhile, is Schoen finally going to pit? He's coming around the final few turns. This is where the entry is.
Yeah,
He is going to come
finally.
in and smoother than the others.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, definitely good entrance. No need to hurry. You're so far ahead at this point. Just keep it in there, keep it nice, and be smooth about it.
Behind him, we're still waiting on Garrett, Wubker, and Freer to pit. Galvin, Galaz also need to take their pit stops. Garrett decides to come in, so does Wubker.
Freer behind them as well.
Shown with a decent stop, mildly slower than the others, but again, like you said, there's no reason to rush right now.
Yeah, the only thing you could really do at this point in the pits is hurt yourself. You got to stop. You're not getting one up on anybody by stopping. So you just got to make sure the operation goes smoothly, and make sure it doesn't hurt you. Other guys got to do it too.
Second. Ooh, this is going to be close out here. Garrett ahead. Oh, no, that's a lap car. Excuse me. That's Aliota giving chase. So after our first stops, because Galvin is now pitting. Looks like Schoen returns the lead. No surprise there. Guerin stays ahead of Beard for second and third, respectively. Garrett is in P4 on the return, and Wubker comes back out in fifth.
Yeah, and just taking a quick look at the top guys. Everybody's pretty smooth, in and out, no problems. Nothing really eventful, and I'm sure that's exactly how they all wanted it.
Still have 24 cars racing. Dupree has since retired. Don't know if we've mentioned that yet. I think the last of our pit stops now done and dusted as everybody else pulls back out onto the track. This separated some of our battles, unfortunately. As I look through, Keita's now all on his lonesome in seventh. Keita had a long stop, though, interestingly. 15 seconds compared to Freer and most everybody else, really, who had 9 to 10 seconds for a stop. Graf was the quickest with 6.5 seconds. That seems very, very fast. He must be taking a short stint here in the middle.
Well, Graf also had some trouble early on. I wonder if he's just off sequence with everybody.
That's true.
I wonder if the extra 5 seconds on that on the stop for Keita, I wonder if there's some optional. Is it possible to pick up that little in these cars?
It could be. It's a possibility. Just needed to tear something off the wing or something. Yeah, interesting. Tyler Graf hasn't had a second stop, though. So it doesn't appear he's off sequence, I think. No, wait, he is. Because 14 laps. So how... This is bizarre. He's not 14 laps into this race, but my timing and scoring says one stop. And it's been 14 laps since that stop. So something screwy is going on there. Quantum physics racing, apparently, for Tyler Graf. Eric Hodel pitting. So here's a couple of our drivers who are off sequence. Brian Peel among them as well. So both Peel and Hodel taking stops. This leaves us with only 17 cars on the lead lap.
Rather a long stop here for sure.
That is, yeah, this is absolutely a long stop. They must have had some sort of damage that we couldn't see for them to be waiting this long. Meanwhile, let's check in with Brian Beard. One of those drivers still looking for an elusive win, but running in the top 5 in points. Number 5 car's got 5 seconds to go to catch up to Dan Guerin. But that doesn't look like it's going to close unless we see a mistake from Dan. Just Brian has been losing little bits of time here and there.
Yeah, Joe, and I think this is about the time in a race like this where you kind of know you're in it for the long haul. You just settle in and make sure you hit your marks and try not to do anything to lose too much time. But you're in the middle part of the race. You really can't be too adventurous. You just got to log these laps and be there to maybe pick up a few spots at the end.
And just ahead of him in first place is our highlighted driver. Let's get that Midwest Simulations on board with Brandon Schoen, because he's been hitting more and more traffic lately. He's overtaken a couple cars since I glanced over here before we put the cameras on. The next one in line for him is going to be Brian Greenlee, actually, in 17th. So you see just up the road. Give you an idea of how much that practice and that experience that I talked about helped. Shown 3 seconds a lap faster than Brian.
Find themselves back the way they are. 17 guys still, actually 15, excuse me, timing just updated. Guys still on the lead lap. Some of them really close to going a lap down. So we got some pretty impressive gaps on the track right now.
Yeah, you were right the first time. It is still 17. It just takes a bit to catch up. Oh, and Burke with more issues. I think he may have gotten the wall this time. Nate Burke coming out of turn 11. He was ahead of Galvin. So Galvin's going to get another spot out of that.
Ooh, pancake.
We did smack it.
He's in the pits now.
Definite repairs needed there. So remember Jason Galvin having that problem early on and falling down a bunch of positions. He's up to 10th. The number 42 is actually one position ahead of where he started this race.
Yeah, and this is the type of race that you could have a setback early on, but keep with it. You find yourself creeping up the positions because a lot of guys are having setbacks. I'm interested to see possibly what some of these guys' incidents might be at. I know, some of these off tracks, they add up, and I'm not quite sure what the penalty is. Maybe you got that in your notes, Joe. If there's a limit, if maybe there's any stop and go penalty or anything like that, perhaps?
There is no incident limit for this series.
Okay,
I do believe they hand out penalty points in the championship for incidents.
Okay.
And I need to double check the rules on that. I'll try and clarify. But I believe that is the deterrent that they use. Granted, honestly, I feel like we've seen enough drivers lose positions from the spins here, and off tracks don't seem to be helping anybody anywhere.
No, the key is just to be consistent. Get your marks, hit your points, and each turn, one after the other. Make sure you don't put too much throttle down. Make sure that back end stays the back end, and just get through traffic.
And 30 to 36 laps is what we're looking at for this second pit window, depending on when you pitted before. Most everybody we saw really went long on this one as we take a look at the leader. Now lapping Nate Burke as well, the one that just clouded the wall and returns to the track. Thankfully, no drama between those two. Shown currently 7 seconds ahead of Dan Guerin. That traffic could play a part in that. We haven't really talked about it. If he catches them at the wrong time or if he plays it too safe with the traffic, Guerin could close that down.
Yeah, we've seen that kind of performance from Guerin. We know that he can get up there. Who knows? He could be laying it back a little bit, and it's possible. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him overtake some gaps, be it on ovals, but we know he's got that kind of talent. So I think there's still a race to be had here.
Now, on my time in scoring, Richard Swavely is grayed out. He hasn't had a disconnect yet, but he's been gone a long time, and I believe that 46 may have disappeared into the ether and is not coming back.
Yeah, it's always never want to end that race, end a race that way for anyone. So I hope we can get everything situated and maybe come back and finish out a few more laps for us.
It's always really gutting when you've got a good race going and suddenly your internet foils it for you. We've seen it so many times here. We've seen wins taken away, sure wins taken away on the channel. But you just feel for the drivers. Got a little bit of a battle for 22nd. This is Viguera, and Bluin is chasing him.
So it's a loose application of the adjective battle, but we'll go with it.
It's still a battle. It doesn't matter if it's for last or first. It's a battle.
I tell you what, though, he has made it interesting. He definitely cut down that gap in those last few turns. So,
absolutely. I mean, Bluin, I'm pretty certain, has decent speed. It's just he's been set back with some wrecks and some mistakes today. So he's on a recovery drive. 96 as he approaches the back of that red number 43. Oh, and Viguera a little bit off course there. Oh, and another mistake.
Up in the grass.
Open the door. No, Bluin a little bit timid. He doesn't want to run into him, so he holds back.
Timid or courteous? I'll let you make that call, Joe.
Well, he's very shallow into the corner, that's for sure. He was holding the inside line. No, is it because he's getting lapped? I think it is. Yes, that's why. So Paul Jenkins and Jonathan Aliota are going by. Tyler Graff also pitted while we weren't looking. This is another one that seems to be off sequence.
I don't think we know what's going on with Graff.
Yeah, not entirely sure. So we are now exactly halfway through this race as Brandon Schoen completes lap 25. Still holding that gap stationary. Back to Dan Guerin at about 7.5 seconds.
Tell you something interesting about Motegi, Joe. We see a lot of these road courses that make use of a speedway's infield. Motegi, none of the track is actually on the oval. It goes underneath the oval to go in and out of the actual complex. So, just an interesting side note. We see Daytona, we say them use the infield, and there'll be a good chunk of the stretch where they're actually on the track, but not here. It's a completely different road course, independent from the oval.
Yeah, it's why they call it Twin Ring, is it's two different individual circuits. So certainly one of the unique oddities in the racing world. We watch our leader continue on.
I remember seeing the kart guys come to the oval for the first time. That was something. I remember it was the inaugural race, and I remember seeing that, and it was cool. They were in Japan for the first time. It was nice to see. I remember the track was new.
As things continue on, not too many battles right now. This is like we were saying earlier. It's drivers just simply trying to get to the end, and it should be pointed out that is not necessarily a boring race guaranteed here, because frankly, we've seen enough drivers making errors completely on their own that I feel like nothing is guaranteed.
No, of course not, Joe. And at this point, we see a little bit of we see a pass for just a lap car. Excuse me. That's for not for position, but you're just kind of battling against yourself. Not a lot of battles going on. You might have a lap car in front of you if you're fortunate enough to be up the top, and you might have guys going around him if you're toward the back. But you're fighting yourself. You're making sure that you don't do anything really dumb. A small mistake can spin you around. It can give up your whole day, something you've worked hard to be up there. So as of right now, settled in, making sure you don't battle your own demons, make sure they don't get the best of you, and just trying to get the most out of yourself for the longest amount of time.
By the way, we got confirmation that Swavely has disconnected. Lucio, in the meantime, as we check the replay, well, he's met the demon that is turn 9, and unfortunately it caused him to slip up.
There you go. Just a little too much throttle, trying to get a good run out, and just goes around on you. Just snaps around. Can't do much about it.
Vargas able to keep it going. I guess that's the nice thing, is that most of the drivers seem to have spun off to the left side, where there's a lot more runoff and grass. Unfortunately, we haven't had at least one slam into the Armco to the right.
Oh,
And Vargas going to discover the troubles of the final chicane as well, just as second place goes by.
can thank iRacing and its forgiveness, because I'm not sure exactly how much driving out of that sand trap he would have been doing getting down that slow.
I know there are some that really don't want it, but I'll be honest, I think it'd be fascinating if we had more realistic sand traps that you could get dug into and find your race ended. But, oh, and we had a problem for Aliota. Don't know if we need to show the replay. It's, guess which turn it's at?
Is it 9, Joe?
Yeah, it's turn 9. It is turn 9 again, in the exact same manner. While we do have time, I do want to mention, we saw Viguera a little bit earlier. He's actually on probation right now. He's been a little bit naughty. So that could be partly why we're seeing the number 43 race a little bit carefully here, is he's trying to get on the good side of the stewards. There he is on screen right now. So he may be at the back of the pack, but right now he's building goodwill with the stewards, if you will.
There you go. And it's not very hard to do as long as you keep it in between the lines on a long road course like this. So good for him. I'm sure hopefully maybe he's learned his lesson, his brief stint in the Chateau Bow Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Good for him. But it's always fun to hear somebody gets a little bit of a talking to. It just keeps it fun.
Close to that pit window opening up now. Lap 30 ought to do it. Now check out Brandon Schoen. 98 once again on screen. Our Midwest Simulations highlighted driver for today's race. Trying to think if we've had any of those highlighted drivers ever take victory in the race that they were the highlighted driver. Oh, we've had a problem with Freer and Kita. Freer and Kita have come together. This is in turn 11. And Takeshi, unfortunately, the samurai, misjudged a move here, and he's just going to clip the back end of the car. Oh, that just sends them into each other.
I think he had a little bit of a panic, and he hit the brakes, and he spun out, and he just took out the back end of the 30. Unfortunate there.
He just, didn't quite time it right, and he's going to spin out one more time out of turn 2. I think he might have some suspension damage from that contact. Freer gets it going. Wubker is promoted up to 5th with that.
Hopefully all of the technical instruments are intact in that ring. Might be a little bit of frustration going on in there.
Yeah, especially with such a good result on the cards. That's the second problem he's had today. Honestly, it's kind of amazing. He's still up in 7th. Seen a little bit of damage on the side pod from that contact. Fastest lap goes back to Brandon Schoen now. Fuel coming down. Car's getting light. Tires look to be holding up pretty well out here.
Yeah, and Schoen a little Hamilton-esque right now. Just 10 seconds out in front. Gap in the field and fastest lap after fastest lap. So again, the onus now on just making sure this pit operation goes smoothly, getting in, getting out, nothing dramatic, and should all go well if you could pull that off, no hitches, and I don't see any indication to think we would.
Up to 9.9, 10 seconds. Back to Dan Guerin. Question is, does Guerin care that much about Schoen being able to take the victory? Because Guerin up in 2nd, Schoen currently down 8th in points, quite a ways back. Of course, it is a long season. We still have much of the races left to go. Taking a look at Dan Guerin now and the 08. Watch as he takes it down into the braking. One of the few spots here with elevation change on the lap. When he's discovering how hard it is to get that car wound up, he was way off the apex.
I bet those tires are a little slippery at this point, though.
We are within the pit window. believe. Actually, no, we should not be, because if it's 17 laps, so they need to get to lap 33, I believe, to get there. So
I like this shot.
More laps.
You look at the steering wheel, you can see him go through the gears, hitting second, third, putting the wheel almost on the grass, fourth and fifth, just running them through. Going to be at sixth for just a quick little bit, and then you just downshift it, getting into a lower gear so you can power your way all the way down to first gear. And that's where these guys have to really be finesse especially with these tires. You go to that first gear, that thing's going to pull. It's going to pull really hard, so you got to make sure you're ready to do that, get through your shifts, and make sure it's going straight.
I'm going to get out my SimRacing cane. Back in my day, we actually couldn't see those gears when we first started broadcasting. It's something that I definitely still appreciate, how this sim has advanced as the years have gone on, and all the detail, the realism that we can appreciate now here on iRacing that they offer us, especially even for these broadcasts. Back down in 12th place, Eric Jeffers would appreciate a position, and Peel is the one that he's trying to squeeze it away from, but Andrew's going to hold him off. They're being approached by Lucio Vargas and Brian Beard. Vargas is a lap down from them, but Brian Beard... Actually, no, Vargas is on the same lap with them. Brian Beard is the one that is a lap up.
It's a little hard to decipher when there's more lap cars than lead lap cars.
Yeah. Down to 11 on the lead lap right now.
But that battle a lap down is pretty tight.
Oh, it absolutely is. And with three of them this close together is a little off the line. Peel gives it up, and Jeffers is going to take the position. This is where it gets dangerous for Beard. He's going to go by one. I thought for sure that Vargas was going to attempt to pass. Maybe he can use the lapping car to maybe open up the door. Not quite. Peel still ahead of him, but now he is tucked up right underneath him. Beard is safely through, and he's got one more to go in this trio. Andrew Peel, as they weave their way into the S's, is going to stay safe, though. Vargas cannot hold on in the buffeting air from the car ahead.
Yeah,
and another mistake.
Lots of mistakes, actually.
Peel looks very unsettled.
I think fatigue is starting to set in, and I think these tires are starting to give up, Joe.
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, it's not a terribly hot day, but it looks like the drivers really are pushing. The more mistakes you make, the more slides that you have like those, the more the tires are going to just feel too abused and cry enough. Will anybody go in this pit? Nope. Everybody stays out.
And again, Joe, it's just the nature. It's battling yourself, making sure you don't overexert yourself.
Wupker, when we weren't looking, has been reeling in John Garrett. What if we could get a lap comparison between the 68 and the 97? Because I don't recall Wupker being nearly this close, but I don't think he's been making dramatic inroads. Oh, there's your answer. Lap 32, this last lap, there must have been a mistake from Garrett. 3 seconds faster.
3 seconds, I would say that was probably a pretty big off. I don't think he went around, but probably an adventurous moment that we happened to miss. But that's what I think would cause a 3.2 second loss there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Had an adventure off in the grass somewhere, and thankfully doesn't seem to have damaged the car. Now, we've got Jason Galvin in the pits, and this should be enough to take him to the end.
Yeah, I think anybody that pits at this point on should be good on fuel to get to the end of this race.
42 is out in 11th, just ahead of a lapped car. I think that's Bluen. Yes, it is. So let's take a look at fourth once more. Wupker has closed in even more, and he's not going to be able to give an attack down into turn 11. If I was Wupker, though, I think I'd think about coming in myself. Nope, not this time. He wants to do it on track. Oh, that was a great exit.
Yeah, it was. There's that run.
Covering off the inside. Garrett trying to ensure he can't do anything into turn one, but that's going to cause him to be shallow. It's a long corner, 2 corners actually, but Wubker can't quite do it.
And a nice clean racing line by Garrett. Not being inconsiderate, giving Wubker a little bit of space, but Garrett just smooth around the turns. It's one thing to catch somebody, but get around him, especially somebody driving as smooth as Wubker, or excuse me, as Garrett right now. It's tough to do. It's a tough ask.
Takeshi Kita is in now, so that should take him to the end of this race. And I think, though Graf is pitted, remember he is off sequence, so he is not the highest bidder of those who can make it to the end. Galvin currently is. Cash is on his way.
Side note on Graf, he's still on the lead lap. He had these troubles early on, but he's been fighting. So good for him.
And Kita is now going to be ahead of Galvin, but not by much. Oh, and what happened to Schoen here? I'm checking to see. Oh, he had a little bit of contact this last lap. Is maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes ago with Robert Bluin. The lapped car outbraked himself. Yeah, here it is. It'll be down into turn 5. That's Bluin in the red and white that's going to let him through, and then it's all going to go south.
Oh, he just tried.
Well, yeah, he was already held up there.
Yeah,
then he went by. Bluin's just going to misjudge his braking.
Oh, I tell you what, it's a good job by Schoen. That could have been disastrous. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Now, he had his spare car, I'm pretty sure.
He's in second place.
He should... Yeah, he had a normal pit stop. He's back out and going.
Yeah.
So, crisis averted. Certainly was a scare. Jenkins, our championship leader, pits. Beard has inherited the lead. So Paul is back out, but he's behind Kita, ahead of Galvin. In fact, this is awful close. How close is it going to be? Galvin's got his tires heated up, and as he breaks into the corner, is this too late? He's very shallow in there. He's off track, and Paul is going to just grab it right back.
How about those shots? Shout out to our director, Sean Ambrose.
Jason Galvin bit off more than he could chew, but he's still on it.
So Beard with the obligatory pit stop now.
Garrett stays out, so he'll inherit second behind Schoen. Wubker stays out. Guerin stays out. Guerin is... Oh, no, Guerin's already had his second stop. Excuse me. And it looks like they are black flagging Bluin.
He's been involved with a few things today.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. I think you talked about it earlier. I think he's going to have a little bit of a chat with the stewards after this race.
Might be inherited some of that non-goodwill that was, sent toward Vigera before.
He's in cahoots with Vigueras. He's distracting the stewards. Meanwhile, we're watching Galvin continue to chase Jenkins. Surprisingly, despite that off, he didn't lose a whole lot of time.
No, we've seen some guys recover pretty quickly. We saw, Schoen with that absolutely. I mean, he hit somebody, but it was a save nonetheless. So we've seen some guys fare better after going off, and some guys do not so well.
Well, this is sort of a gut punch. Richard Swavely has reconnected. So there's that. Poor guy is, gosh, how many laps down is he? 13 laps down right now. So I don't think it's even worth him getting back out on track. He's not going to gain any positions. after that. So we continue to stay with Galvin, seeing if he can get into the top 10 here. Had a few more pitters, Garrett, Wubker, Freer, all in.
That exhaust. I love that old school side exhaust.
Plus the heat coming off of it that shows here in iRacing, and another thing that has been added since we started broadcasting here. Now, will anybody relinquish positions to Kita and crew? It doesn't look like it. As Galvin comes on to the front stretch. Speaking of which, Galvin, with his mistake and with his battling here, has lost time to Takeshi. It was closer than this earlier on. Ooh, wide off the corner from Jenkins, and here we go again. This is where it went south for Galvin before. Did he learn his lesson? Has he figured out his brake marker? He's once again very shallow. This time he keeps it on the track. Galvin now up to 9th with that.
That was a really good move, Joe.
I asked if he'd learned his lesson. I think he figured out where the brakes were this time.
I think so. I mean, that looked like a very well-timed right there.
Jenkins didn't fight it. He's just going to stick it out, look for another top 10 here.
You know, I guess as mainly an oval guy, you could always... You always want to do well at the road courses, maybe not expecting to win, but you just want to bring it home in one piece. And I would take a 10th spot, especially if I was in the top of a champ spot.
Yeah, you got to minimize the mistakes and whatnot as we come to this battle on screen between Kita and Graf. Now, remember, Graf still needs to pit as far as we're aware. He doesn't defend, but Kita this time doesn't get into the car as he's trying to overtake, still backs out of it. I don't know. If I was Graf, I really wouldn't fight Kita too hard here. Because he's got to come in pretty soon. Graf only has a couple laps left to fuel.
Yeah, and again, with the troubles he's had, I figured he would be content to just, grab his last pit stop and bring it home.
That makes you wonder, too, how aware is Kita that he's going to inherit this position eventually. So he also doesn't have to fight too hard unless he really feels he's being held up. Kita's got about 5 seconds back to Galvin now that Jason has managed to overtake Jenkins. We're going to be down to 10 laps to go soon.
Yeah, and they've kind of clicked on by. Pretty good pace to this race. Obviously, a lot of troubles, a lot of single car spins. Haven't seen a lot of guys get into one another. It's been a good run. Definitely little lacking on the overtaking, but some good skills on display today, Joe.
Oh!
Wow.
And Kita gets into him. Wheel spin
with...
for Graf coming off the corner. Don't back up. Oh, I thought he was going to back up on the track there. They were even warned about that in the driver's meeting. I can't put this one on Takeshi. It looked like that car just slipped up in front of him.
Graf's done. He can't keep that car straight, and I think he's out of fast repairs.
That is a real shame. Yeah, he just it looked like he understeered a little bit and had to check up, and he just was not expecting it. Graf is actually still limping the car along. That's going to gift positions to Galvin and Jenkins. So Galvin now up to 7th, Jenkins to 8th. All still keeping touch with Jason, but not very closely. I think Jason's got the measure of him. Oh, and another self-spin. This one, Andrew Peel. You want to take a guess what corner?
Nueve.
Well done, sir. Well done. Now, do you know it in Japanese? That's the question. I don't even know that, honestly. Maybe somebody in the chat can inform us. Let's take a look at our leader, Brandon Schoen. continuing to work his way around. Jeff Wupker is actually starting to catch up to Garrett yet again, by the way. So that battle for fourth is looking like it's hovering dangerously close. Probably a little too close for Garrett's comfort.
And Joe, just a quick update. Looks like Tyler Graff took the tow. Doesn't look like he's in the car. Starting to lose some laps to the guys that were a few laps behind him. I think his night's done.
I think you're right. It looks like that's the end of the road. We're down to 10 drivers on the lead lap, and that might be 9 soon. Hugo Galaz is the last one, as there's our leader there. Brandon Schoen, maybe about 6 or 7 seconds behind Hugo. This is Dan Guerin as well. To tell you the skill that Brandon Schoen has, 18 seconds over Dan Guerin right now. Brandon is a force of nature today.
And that includes a little dust up. So not a bad run from him.
An off track that probably would have cost him maybe about 5 seconds or so. Not a huge chunk of time, but certainly something to think about. Amazingly, with losing Graff, we've lost Rupp as well, so we've only got 20 drivers left of the 25 starters, but still impressive considering the number of dramas there have been on track. Pointing in once again with a 68 in the 97. Riding on board with Jeff Wupker. Starting in 7th. He's up 2 positions. He'd like one more.
And that's what you can do right now, Joe. You can just keep on battling and hope to get that 1 or 2 spots before the end of the race.
If I were Wupker, though, I don't know how readily I would hand this one away. He's only had 1 top 10, no top 5s at all so far this season. This will be his first if he finishes here. So his best finish of the season if he brings it home. So this seems like a risk versus reward scenario to me.
Yeah, again, we haven't called his name much in the last couple of races, so a top 5 would be really nice today.
Still staying about a second back from John Garrett. So they are now down to 9 laps to go. Back into the infield, into the final chicane. Look at how much speed they're able to carry through there, too. Getting a little late in the afternoon here. The shadows are getting longer. The temperatures have continued to drop little by little, but not in huge chunks. It's only 83 degrees Fahrenheit right now on the track surface. But we're getting a little bit more of a golden hue here.
Oh,
the land of the rising sun.
Taking a ride there.
The sun itself. Oh, what?
I'm just watching some cones jump around.
Oh.
That's all.
Yeah, those cones get abused a lot here at this track. They're there to mark off so that drivers know not to take the short, I believe it's called the East Course, if I recall correctly. That is just within the infield. It's practically an oval. But they could probably scoot those back a little bit because the racing line takes you right into them. They've given instructions to the lapped cars with less than 10 to go. They have been told to obey blue flags. They're now obligatory instead of just informational. Obviously, anybody who is a lap down is not getting a win at this point, so there's really no reason for them to try and fight the leaders.
No, but even at a lap down, you're still picking up 11th, 12th, 13th, and now 14th spot. So not the worst of runs. Could have been a worse day. So being 1 lap down is not the worst thing.
Oh, there was a mistake off the final corner. Garrett does not defend well enough. He leaves the door open enough, even though he drifted off to the side. Wubker sends it in. He's got to get the exit right, though, and he does, as Garrett once again struggling. Jeff Wubker, a patient man, earns his position and gets himself into P4 just behind a little bit of a mistake from John Garrett. That car does not look healthy here at the end of the race.
Oof.
From on poor John. This is after he's been passed and down into the corner. Didn't look like he touched the grass. Just maybe brake too late or something.
Wow, he took that thing around that turn.
This isn't a rallycross course yet, so got to keep it on the pavement. And did Guerin...
Oh, well, what are we seeing? Oh, he hit the wall.
Dan Guerin out of turn 10. He cooked it too hard. He was already losing ground.
Looks like he's already got damage here.
Okay, so let's see if we can find out what happened after we watched this. We just stepped away. So already damage on. This must have been quite a while ago then. I'm checking to see if I can find something.
It did look like the gap was shrinking for sure. Not quite sure exactly what started that, but yeah, the nose hanging off there. Just trying to find out exactly where that happened.
It's multiple laps ago. I'm looking at it, and he's been limping that car around for quite some time, and just the pressure of being chased. We're going to watch the replay of this, whatever second mistake, whatever the first one was.
Well, you take him back here, we could see that he's pretty mangled, but he's running up there in third still.
Oh, man. Not good for Guerin, even though he will still get plenty of points over Jenkins. And the good news is Wubker is almost 10 seconds behind, so I think Guerin's still got decent enough pace that I doubt he's going to be run down in 7 laps. Speaking of Jenkins, did he get back by Galvin when we weren't looking? Let's take a look at when this happened. Looking for the number 17. Being overtaken by the 42. No, I don't think Galvin pitted. That was not his car that we saw in pit lane.
Be a late time for a pit.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have needed one. Oh, he had a mistake in turn 1. It's actually pretty recent. If we go about a minute and 15 back, we can catch it. It was down into turn 1. Here it is right here. And he had this position handily. This is all down to him.
Oh, just locked it up.
Yeah, off wide. Now, he didn't panic. I mean, credit to him there, but once he came back on, the damage was done, and now he's got to redo everything.
And Schoen just trucking along. Pretty sizable gap there back to second spot. Beard ended up in second spot. He might be able to take home a ninth spot at the end of this. Take a look at him, putting down some laps there, but not representing the team, but is carrying the title sponsor of our series. So it's good to see him second place. Got around Guerin when he had his incident, and always a good second spot on the podium.
Yep, I'm sure Beard will take it. He still wants those wins that he have continued to escape him. Seems like the days he has the pace, it just doesn't come to him. Paul Jenkins, meanwhile, still trying to hold back Galvin. Again, this is important because Jenkins, ahead of Beard in the points, does not want to give him any more than he can get. And Galvin doesn't really care about that championship with where he is. Just behind them, that is for position as well. Takeshi Kita has run them down. That mistake from Jason has put them into the clutches of the number 30.
And Takita just again chugging along. He's had his share of adventure as well, but he's still knocking on the door to pick up a couple more spots before this one's over.
Out of the final turn now. Onto the front stretch once again. This is where we saw the mistake from that orange and white machine. Jenkins, though, making mistakes in the past out of turn 2. This time, not so. He's kept it nice and smooth. He's not going to give him another chance here. Oh, look at how quickly Akita is approaching. There's the mistake. Oh, and he sticks his nose in. A little bit of contact. They both make it out the other side. Jenkins has the inside line as they come down into turn 5. As Kita gives watch. Stronger on the brakes and around the outside. Galvin, a little bit too strong. He goes a little off track. Jenkins now has the inside as they come through 6. It's going to switch back into the S's. And he's got the inside. Can he finally seal the deal? He does, and Kita can't quite get it from him. Wow.
Just incredible battles, Joe, and they're making it look fun, too.
And there goes Kita out of turn 9. Not the first time for Takeshi. He got a little bit eager. He thought maybe... There's the problem at turn 5 with Galvin going off, almost handing that spot right back. And Takeshi's watching. He thinks, this is my chance. This is my chance. And he goes a little wide with the aero wash. Could have set himself up for later, but he got greedy here.
Yep,
And
just too much. Just a little too much throttle.
We come back live. Kita is down to 9th from that. We are down to 3 to go now. Our leader actually getting close to lapping Kita. "30 seconds just about the gap between Schoen and Beard. Looks like we've since lost Nate Burke now as well. We're down to 19 cars still running of our 25 starters.
And we take a look at this battle. This has been our go-to for the last 20 laps.
They've been providing us excitement. Galvin's been providing us a lot of excitement today, honestly. He's had some adventures. And like you said, it's not over. Jenkins kind of sticking with him here, making sure that he stays honest. He made one mistake before. There's always hope as a driver when you see that. You know he's fallible. You know that you can keep the pressure on. These are two that are also close to the tail end of the lead lap, because we're coming to 2 to go here pretty soon.
Yeah, Joe, and at this point, you just want to wrap it up, make sure all the metal's straight when you get it back to the pits, and call it a day. Anybody up here, they earned their spot. A tough 50 laps today.
Really has been. Third place has been tough for Dan Guerin. Now, I mentioned I didn't think he was vulnerable to Wubker, but Jeff's closed it down to 2 seconds. I wonder, let me look at the lap times here. 36 flat, 36.3, 36.9. Guerin kind of slowing down a little bit, if anything. And Wubker's 34s. So that's actually 2 seconds a lap quicker. Wubker actually could get this. Depends on how defensive Dan wants to be.
Well, again, Joe, I'm sure Wubker would love to be on the podium. I haven't seen his name much. I'm not sure if he was involved in the last couple races, so he's definitely not up there trying to fight for a championship. So I think he'd be rather aggressive trying to get that 3rd spot.
And I think they're going to get the white flag next time by. So we're down to 2 to go. They've just been given that 2 to go for them. Brandon Schoen is coming back into the infield right now, getting that white flag. Actually coming up on Takeshi Kita. Does Takeshi actually try and stay on the lead lap? Does he want this race to be over and let the leader through, or does he want to have the honor of completing all 50 today? We got to go back to Wubker now. Oh, and another mistake. Same spot from Dan Guerin. Almost exact copy.
And Wubker moves into that third spot, that third step on the box.
Oh, for your first time for a top 5, that's going to be a great day for him. John Garrett, who we ride on board with, now close behind Dan Guerin as they get the white flag. Oh boy, this is going to be a miserable day if Guerin finds himself making another mistake with a very close move for a moment. On with the 68.
Ooh, oh! Wow.
Great heads up. Oh, and he's off.
Garrett's off again.
Catches the car. He's coming up to him. I think he can have this if he's good enough on the brakes. He's got the inside. And Guerin can't hold him back. But as that happens, our leader has 2 more turns to go. Brandon Schoen, victory number 2. Back-to-back, only the 3rd driver to have more than 1 win this season. Japan goes to the number 98. It's a long ways back to Brian Beard. Let's go to the battle between Guerin and Garrett. Can he come back at him? That car is struggling. He falls back. John Garrett has got that position wrapped up. Beard going to get on the podium in that number 5. Solid points today. It's not a win, but you don't necessarily have to win every race to take a championship. Wubker as well. Only 1 top 10, and when he gets his first top 5, it's on the podium. Nicely done to the 97. Garrett just behind him home. And Dan Guerin, unfortunately, has to settle for 5th. More points could have been had on Paul Jenkins, who's actually still close to Galvin as they go by a lapped car. So, yeah, only 3 positions between Jenkins and Guerin unless something happens in these last few corners to Galvin. Jenkins' saving grace was Dandy Dan's nose damage in these last few laps that we're still not sure where he got them from. And indeed, Galvin's going to recover to 7th, and Jenkins with an 8th, and Kita, your last one across the line. That's going to take us to a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Twin Ring Motegi. It's time for the Rogue Energy post-race show. Rogue Energy Drink is designed to replace unhealthy canned energy drinks, coffee, and even traditional pre-workouts. Rogue Energy is sugar-free and loaded with vitamins, antioxidants, and nootropics. Scoop, shake, drink, win. Use promo code UCORA-INDY to get 10% off of your purchases at rogueenergy.com. Today's race was won by another sponsor-related person. That was Brandon Schoen, who was our highlighted driver from Midwest Simulations. Victory from pole with Brian Beard coming home second behind him. Brian inheriting that second after Dan Guerin found problems. Jeff Wubker with an excellent third place after qualifying in seventh and keeping the car steady. John Garrett just snuck into fourth on the final lap ahead of poor Dan Guerin, who unfortunately found his nose damaged and wound up having to relinquish positions one by one as he made mistakes out of slow corners. Jackson Freer, he had a lot of action, and in the end, just wound up even from 6 to 6. Jason Galvin, not so. He was up and down the order, gained 5 positions in the end, 4 positions rather, from 11th to 7th. Math is hard. Paul Jenkins with an 8th today was followed by Takeshi Kita, last driver on the lead lap, and Hugo Velaz rounds out your top 10.
All right, Joe, I will try to count past 10 here. 11th spot, Eric Jeffers. These guys a lap down. Vargas and Peel. A couple laps down, we had Greenlee and Aliota, 14th, 15th. 3 laps down, Hodel, Peel, Vergara, who, again, we saw trying to get back in the good graces of the stewards. And then Robert Blewin in 19th spot and starting to fall off the rest of the guys. 20th is Nate Burke. Graff, he had his adventures in 13th. Rupp, Swavely Bennett, and then we got Dupree and Matricion rounding up the field. Tough day for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, a lot of DNFs there, but Brandon Schoen managed to avoid that, if maybe just barely. Brandon, you were kind of out on your lonesome, but the one point you did have some action. I'm sure it was kind of unwanted. Tell us about what happened with the lapped car there.
Yeah, for sure. I just rear-ended me a little bit into the braking zone there, and I was mad for about 15 seconds, like really mad, and just took stock of what was going on. The car wasn't too bad. It's time to pit anyway, so I got real lucky in that. To dive in pit road, car repaired, keep on going, put my head down, and start turning that.
Absolutely. And this makes it back-to-back wins for you as well. You're only the third driver to be able to claim multiple victories in this series. So for you, does knowing that you gained 2 spots after last round in the championship hunt, this is going to gain you even more. Where do your eyes go from here?
Oh, well, they're not going to change. They're at the top. I mean, I'm looking to win the championship. What?
All right. Well, seems
That's
like
the goal.
goals. Yeah, it obviously feels. Obviously, you feel confident about that. But we are going back to the ovals once again, and it's going to be an important one. Not just the points, but the pride at stake, because we're going to Indianapolis. Do you feel like you've got something for the other drivers there?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Indianapolis. Probably one of my favorite ovals, so I'm really looking forward to it. Be a
Great
good
stuff.
challenge. I need to get a win on an oval. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations, another win, sir, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you there at Indy.
All right, thanks, guys.
It was Brandon Schoen, winner here today. Up next, Rocco's caught up with Brian Beard.
Brian Beard, harder in second spot today. Some hard driving out there. How do you feel? You tired? And how'd you feel when you picked up those last spots in those last 10 laps?
Tired and sweaty. Yeah, so I knew Dan had an issue, and I just didn't know how big it was. So when I started seeing a little bit of time come off, I just started pushing a little bit harder.
Yeah, how much have you practiced Motegi? We were talking about it on the broadcast. Not a lot of guys are very familiar with the circuit.
A little bit. I've run this track in the other league I run, and so I was kind of familiar with it. Not with this car, so I had to do quite a bit of practice. But even then, I kept making little mistakes every single lap.
Yeah, going back to the ovals after the road course, are you happy about that, or would you like to see a couple road courses strung together in the schedule?
I'll take the road courses.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, again, earned second spot. Well done tonight. Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, competitors, all great guys. Scott Bolster, our series sponsor, my sponsor, 94 Motorsports, D2 Race Designs, Midwest Simulations, Rogue Energy, and thank you guys for broadcasting. I appreciate everything.
No, it's always a pleasure to do it on this end, Brian. So again, it's great to talk to you after the race. Great job tonight on second spot, and hopefully we get you back in the booth at Indy.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, we don't have our third place finisher, Jeff Wubker, but we do have fourth place, John Garrett. And John, we got to see a little bit of that battle at the very end. Did that get your heart racing, seeing yourself approaching Dan? Oh, don't have John here quite yet. Let's see if we can get a copy. John, are you there? Doesn't seem to have things quite mapped up. We'll give John a moment to try and get things sorted out on his end with Discord, but John only moved up one position. We saw him in plenty of battles throughout the race as he was battling with guys such as Freer and Takeshi Kita at moments, but he came out the better of many of them.
You guys hear
Let's
me
give it
now?
one more shot. There we go. Now we've got you, Johnny.
Hey man, sorry about that. I did not bind my keybind. Yeah, it was a little bit tiring towards the end. I knew Jeff was just a tad bit faster, and I was really pushing it to my skill ability just to keep in front of him, and started making some mistakes, and I wasn't surprised that happened.
Absolutely. Still just shy of the podium. Obviously, everybody would like to be able to spray the champagne, but we've been talking to a lot of drivers about the next one, which seems like it's going to be all the more important. You fared well on road courses. Can you fare well at a super speedway?
That's a good question. Well, I've got some learning to do. Yeah, I can't seem to gain every little fraction where it's necessary on these speed. The only thing that's kind of helped me a little bit in practicing for them is I actually treat them just like a giant wide road course, and I just try to treat each corner just that way, like where you can gain and that type of thing.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you to see if maybe you can find some secrets come next week. Is there anybody you want to thank for this fourth place?
Oh, and you guys are running a great show here. I love watching the replays and interviews and that, and Scott for the league and the guys up front ran real clean. You always want to thank them for doing that and keep it the same way. I appreciate it. You guys do a great job, Ben. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate the kind words up here. That was John Garrett, fourth place finisher here today. And that's going to be the last of our interviews, actually. So we're going to close out the Rogue Energy post-race show by thanking our sponsors, starting with Midwest Simulations. Again, their promo code is Throwback if you want to try and save some money on their Spotlights spotter pack. And of course, D2 Race Designs for the Pole Award. And then also to Rogue Energy for sponsoring the post-race show. Again, the promo code for them is UCORA Indy to get 10% off your purchases at rogueenergy.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Rocco, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Our social media is Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store. That's gsrc.storenv.com. We got a link in the description below. And while you're there, make sure and subscribe to the channel, because if you see a big red button that says subscribe, that means you haven't done it yet. Next race, as we mentioned, off to Indianapolis for the Oval. That'll be Thursday, May 21st at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.